Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Tokyo on Fire. Today is August 4th, 2016. Tokyo has a new governor, the first female governor of the metropolis in history. Michael, she's been busy. She's been in office for 3 days now, and she is cranking and ready to go.
Well, it was a difficult and long campaign.
3 weeks.
A few weeks. She pushed back against the LDP. She pushed back against all kinds of people, and she won resoundingly in the election, absolutely trouncing the LDP's personal choice of Masuda by over 1 million votes, with the third place finish by the alliance candidate, who was crippled from the beginning by basically a sex scandal. This victory was total. She completely wiped everybody off the map, and so she came into office this week. I mean, because there's no one to replace. She's filling in an empty seat. She just went and started work just a few days ago.
She won the election with a showing of Tokyo metropolitan voters showing up. 59% of the registered voters showed up to vote.
It was an extremely high count. No one really had an idea. It's been really strange. We had in the House of Councilors more people showing up to vote than imagined. And then here on the 31st day of July, when you'd think people would be heading out, it's a weekend day just before August. Nobody's going to be around. Wrong.
You know, it's funny that the Prime Minister was touting his horn and saying, you know, we won by a landslide. This one really qualifies as a landslide.
Yeah, she really...
And nobody said that.
Yeah, and nobody has said anything about it. There's no question that she won fair and square, and she won with basically just an organization that she put together at the last minute. She didn't have the machine vote. Mm-hmm. She didn't have any particular groups supporting her, unless, of course, you think that in some ways her relationship with the Nippon Kaigi and right-wing politics gave her a leg up. And you look at the results for the ultra-right candidate in the election, who was Sakurai. He got about 100,000 votes. Now that's a big fall from the 600,000 that Tamogami got just a few years ago. So maybe a lot of those people flowed in looking at Koike's statements and her record and said, she's ours. So she had, yes, the angle that she would be the first woman, but also she has, real bona fides with the conservatives.
Right. There were 20 other candidates that were vying for that post. Only 3 were really contenders for the position. More than 55% of the LDP voted for her.
That's the thing. The LDP faithful did not vote for the LDP candidate. Mm-hmm. The
Komeito did.
The Komeito did as it's supposed to do. Its supporters provided votes
about
for the
65-70%.
But the LDP voters abandoned the LDP candidate, thinking that he was just not worth their time, and instead flowed to her. So she had all kinds of people in a coalition, and so she goes in very much the people's candidate,
right?
Which means she's going to have a real hard time coming down because she's not the Tokyo Assembly's candidate.
That's right. She is going to have a little bit of a fist fight in probably after the honeymoon is over. The honeymoon might last, what? Until she goes to... until she comes back from Rio.
The honeymoon never happened. She went on her first day to the Tokyo, to the metropolitan government.
Thousands of the employees showed up. She got a bouquet of flowers.
The employees were thrilled to tears.
And the LDP.
And she went across the street to the assembly building to pay pay courtesy calls, because courtesy, we know what that means.
Yes.
Well, clearly the LDP did not.
They didn't get that memo.
They didn't get that memo. They did not send their number 1 person out. They did not send out their number 2 person.
Right.
They sent out the number 3 in the hierarchy to meet her for what was supposed to be a 5-minute get together. It lasted 60 seconds. Mm-hmm. When she realized how low down the totem pole this person greeting her was, she walked out.
So the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly consists of 127 members. 60 of those are from the LDP. Another 23 are from the coalition partner Komeito. And only 2 showed up when she went into the lobby that's reserved for the LDP to greet her on her first day.
It was clearly a brush off. And the thing is that I don't see I'm actually having a Twitter war with some of the analysts.
Oh, that shocks me.
I know. I never discuss anything on Twitter. But in this case, I look at the assembly and I look at her and I see just crash after crash after crash.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only does she not have the majority of seats of the coalition, of the Komeito and the LDP, they're cold shouldering her.
Mm-hmm.
But she's also deadly enemies with the Minshinto and the communists, who are the other two big parties in the Metropolitan Assembly. So she has nearly 3/4 of the Metropolitan Assembly dead set against her, starting from day one. It's a recipe for disaster.
Well, she kind of stuck a stick in the hornet's nest even while she was campaigning, saying, not only am I going to reduce my salary, suggesting, therefore, maybe other people's salaries should be reduced too. But she also said, I'm going to come in, I'm going to clean this thing up. The corruption that's involved with the handling of the Olympics, I'm going to review that. I'm going to set up a special investigatory group, and we're going to turn things around. I mean, the knives were already out.
Well, she's definitely running a populist message. Whether that can be translated into actual policy or not depends on how much the Assembly feels that pressure from the public. The public is behind her.
Yes.
Okay, she
clearly.
definitely can say that and can say, look at the numbers. I've got them. They're supporting me. Don't go against me.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the way the Assembly is going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And she really doesn't have any allies there. One place that we're going to see problems is in regards to the Olympics, because not only is she fighting with the assemblies or with bureaucrats within her own Tocho, but also, more importantly, with the central government.
Right.
And we had today, really fast, comparatively, a direct meeting between her and the Prime Minister. I mean, I can't think of any other governor who would have that much say or ability to meet with the Prime Minister. Mm-hmm. But clearly, Mr. Abe is looking at the Olympics and looking at her talk about cutting here, cutting there, reducing the budget as much as possible, that he sees trouble there.
Sure. Well, he's also appointed a new minister in charge of the Olympic facilitation within the cabinet as well, another female.
That's right. In this case, Mayuka, who also hails from the Tokyo area. A lot of people are shaking their heads today saying, this doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't look good. It looks like a train wreck.
It looks like a train wreck coming up. And we're going to be seeing throughout the year a lot of places where her campaign promises, and she was running on a populist campaign, she was running on a nationalist campaign, where these will come up against real roadblocks that when you're the head of a metropolitan district, as she will be, that you can't just follow up on these broad promises. There's one that's brewing right now between her and Shinjuku Ward. Shinjuku Ward has a very large concentration of Koreans living in it in Koreatown.
The school.
And they have asked and got permission from the previous governor to establish a second Korean high school in the city. Mm-hmm. And they are going to lease a high school that was abandoned. She ran on the campaign promise that she would reverse this lease, she would cancel it, and there would not be a new Korean high school in the city. Wow, that's fine to say on the campaign trail, but when you suddenly become the head of the city that's going to be hosting the Olympics, you can't be so cavalier with international relations. And she's going to run up against that, and especially because she talks about being the governor for the Tomin, for the residents of the metropolitan area. But she runs on very much a nationalist, a Japanese for Japan line. So there's a conflict between those two, because a lot of the people who live here are not necessarily citizens.
Right.
And she has got to switch over, but that means she's going to have to go against her nationalist base.
Well, I've got a lot of hope for her. She's got tremendous momentum to really achieve some things that she's put a stake in the ground on. And there has been talk that she might even be able to form another political party. And I think there's real credibility behind that.
Yeah, I've received a lot of inquiries from outside of Japan saying, is this a stepping stone for her to make a run at the prime ministership. And I have to say, whoa, 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 whoa.
Mm-hmm.
You need a political party,
sure
and
do.
it has to have seats in the diet, and you have to become a diet member before that becomes a possibility. Let's see if she could be governor for a while first,
Sure.
before we start that conversation. But certainly the possibility that she might start something of a green party. Her personal color is green and her handles are all having to do with the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was environment minister for a good span of time. Everybody talks about her having been defense minister, but that was only for a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, she was environment minister, and she's very much associated with the cool biz movement that. Well, you and I are wearing ties now, but when this is over, you and I are going to both take them off because
We're
everybody
practically naked.
Let's hope not. But Koike Yuriko has an ethos and an ability, has been able to transcend political parties so far. So maybe she does have enough oomph behind her that she can go on and move this into some kind of bigger political role.
I think she will. I think there's a lot of momentum behind her, a lot of hope. She's going to go to Rio. She's going to take the Olympic flag and bring it back to Tokyo triumphantly. I think she's got a lot going for her.
Well, I have my doubts because of simply the number of seats in the assembly.
Stay tuned. We're going to continue to watch this. The new governor of Tokyo is on a roll.